Some cars were never meant to win beauty contests. Some were built to win on the streets. In 1971, Dodge introduced a muscle car that didn't care about chrome, luxury, or high society appeal. It cared about one thing: getting the most bang for your buck. This car wasn't the fastest ever made or the most powerful, but it had heart, it had guts, and it had just enough of everything to earn its place as one of the most underappreciated, budget-friendly muscle cars in history. We're talking about none other than the Dodge Demon 340, a low-cost brawler with a high-octane attitude. It came into the scene, swung at the giants, and reminded everyone that being the underdog doesn't mean being weak. It means being underestimated. And that's exactly where the Demon 340 thrived. Let's rewind to the early 70s. The muscle car wars were in full swing. GM had the Chevelle SS and Camaro Z/28. Ford had the Mustang Mach-1. Plymouth had the Cuda. And Dodge? Dodge had some serious heat with the Charger and Challenger. But those weren't what the average guy could afford fresh out of high school. Dodge needed something that would scream performance without draining your bank account. Something lightweight, aggressive, and rebellious. That's when they took the Dart, a compact car already popular for its affordability, and gave it a sinister twist. They dropped in a 340 cubic inch V8, blacked out the grille, slapped on a Demon badge, and suddenly this modest compact car became a street-legal fighter. It was raw, it was loud, and it could eat bigger, heavier muscle cars alive in the quarter mile. The Demon 340 didn't have the monstrous HEMI under the hood, but don't let that fool you. Its 340 cubic inch small block V8 was no joke. Rated at 275 horsepower, though most insiders knew that was a conservative number, it packed a wicked punch thanks to a high-performance camshaft, dual exhaust, 10.5:1 compression, and a 4-barrel carb. And since it was stuffed into a car that barely tipped the scales at 3,000 pounds, it had a power-to-weight ratio that gave much bigger cars a run for their money. On the streets, the Demon was quick. It could do 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds flat. And the quarter mile? It was knocking it out in the high 13s or low 14s, right alongside cars that cost hundreds, even thousands more. But here's what really made the Demon 340 special. It was cheap, and not in a bad way. It was budget muscle, built for the everyday street racer, the kid who flipped burgers all week just to run the strip on the weekend. In 1971, a base Demon started at just around $2,200. If you check the box for the 340 engine, rally suspension, and optional 4-speed transmission, you were still walking away under $3,000. That kind of value was unheard of. Dodge had essentially handed young gearheads the keys to a street beast without making them sell their souls to a bank. It was the people's muscle car, and that's what gave it its edge. It was scrappy, it was fun, and it didn't pretend to be anything it wasn't. Now let's talk about styling. The Demon 340 was subtle, almost sneaky. It didn't look like a monster at first glance, but the cues were there. It had a wide, blacked-out grille with a toothy grin, a performance hood with dual scoops, and the graphics? A devilish little cartoon demon grinning from the rear fender, pitchfork in hand. It was cheeky and bold, and it perfectly matched the car's attitude. Inside the cabin was no frills, but functional. Bucket seats, a tough steering wheel, and a floor-mounted shifter gave it a purposeful look. You didn't buy the Demon for luxury. You bought it to throw it sideways around a corner or line it up against a Camaro at a stoplight. Performance was more than just straight-line speed. The Demon 340 had the bones of a true handler. Thanks to its light frame and rally suspension, featuring heavy-duty torsion bars, anti-sway bars, and beefed-up rear springs, it could actually carve corners better than many of its bulkier muscle rivals. It was nimble, it was responsive. It didn't feel like you were dragging a brick around. Drivers often praised its handling as one of the best in the muscle segment. And let's not forget the optional 4-speed manual with her shifter. Pure driving joy. This car wanted to be driven, not babied. It rewarded aggression with control. It was balanced mayhem. But as with many great muscle cars, the Demon 340's time in the spotlight was brief. just 2 years, 1971 and 1972. Why? A mix of reasons. The name Demon stirred up controversy among religious groups who didn't love the idea of Satan-inspired branding on the back of a car. Dodge received letters, lots of them. Complaints, boycotts, and church-led protests pressured Chrysler into changing direction. By 1973, the Demon was dead, rebadged as the Dart Sport. Same bones, but without the attitude, without the bite. The name alone gave the car its charm. Once that was gone, so was the magic. But the Demon 340's legacy, that never disappeared. Today, the Demon 340 is a rare sight. Fewer than 11,000 units were made in 1971 and slightly more in 1972. That makes them a unicorn among Mopar fans, a true sleeper collector's item. It's not uncommon to see clean examples fetching premium prices at auctions and car shows. What was once a budget street racer is now a coveted piece of Dodge history. And with the resurgence of interest in classic muscle, more enthusiasts are realizing just how special this little devil really was. It wasn't just a car, it was a moment, a spark of rebellion during a golden era of American horsepower. You still with me? Because now it's time to talk attitude. The Demon 340 wasn't built to impress your neighbor. It wasn't about being flashy or flamboyant. It was about pure, unapologetic power, delivered in a way that was accessible to the masses. Think of it as the punk rock of the muscle car scene. It wasn't polished, but it was loud. It was rebellious. It stood for something bigger than horsepower. It stood for freedom. The freedom to burn rubber without burning your wallet. The freedom to show up at a drag strip, beat cars twice your price, and leave with a grin that stretched ear to ear. And just imagine being a teenager in 1971. You're standing at a dealership with just enough cash saved up from your summer job. Most cars are boring, plain, or just out of reach. Then you see it, a small, low-slung coupe with a devil on the fender and a rumble that shakes the glass. The salesman hands you the keys. You drop it into first gear and feel that 340 V8 roar to life. That's not just a purchase, that's a transformation. You didn't just buy a car, you joined a brotherhood. The Demon 340 wasn't for everyone, and that's what made it special. And it's worth noting that the modern revival of the Demon name, yes, we're talking about the 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Demon, owes its roots to this original brawler. The spirit of the Demon 340 is alive in every burnout, every drag strip pass, and every come-and-get-it attitude Dodge has embraced since. The modern Demon may pack over 800 horsepower and cost 6 figures, but its spiritual ancestor did it all with less than 300 horses, no electronics, and a whole lot of nerve. That's legacy. That's respect. Before we wrap it up, let's hit the brakes for a moment and throw out a little challenge. If you could bring back one muscle car, untouched, raw, and mechanical, just like it was in the 70s, would it be the Demon 340? Or would you go for one of its louder cousins like the Charger RT or the Plymouth Roadrunner? Drop your thoughts. Let's see who the real Mopar fans are. At the end of the day, the Dodge Demon 340 wasn't the biggest, baddest, or most famous, but it didn't need to be. It was the fighter that slipped through the ropes and punched above its weight. It delivered joy to an entire generation of young drivers who wanted speed, attitude, and affordability, all rolled into one tight, tire-spinning package. It was a car with grit, and it earned its respect not with luxury, but with loyalty. If you ever get the chance to drive one, or better yet, own one, know that you're stepping into a legacy of blue-collar horsepower, a muscle car for the people, a devil in the details.